For almost as long as I can remember, I've seen things that I shouldn't. Things that nobody else sees. I know that it started when I was young. I remember being in the hospital after I got hit by a car, and seeing an old woman walking through the halls, screaming out to the doctors who wouldn't listen to her. At the top of her lungs, she yelled over and over again, "Please, please, I don't feel well. Please, please, can't anybody help me?" I remember those words clearly. I remember her tone, the desperation in her voice. I remember the fear. But most of all, I remember that when she walked past my door, she had the strangest blue aura around her. It surrounded her completely, and shone so brightly I didn't know how everybody else didn't immediately notice it. Especially since all of their auras were green. From my hospital bed, I watched her cling to passing doctors in the hall, tugging at their sleeves. But her hands seemed to pass right through them. She sobbed as she followed them, like a lost, desperate puppy. But nobody spoke to her. Nobody paid any attention to her. Even when I asked the nurse about the old woman in the hall, I remember that she just frowned and asked me, "What old woman?" As if we couldn't hear her crying just down the hall at that very moment. It wasn't until later that I figured out that I was the only one who could see some people. It's the aura that tells me who's visible and who's not. Most people and animals have a green aura, and everyone can see them. But the people with a blue aura, they only appear for me. Sometimes they notice that I can see them. Sometimes they talk to me, but I usually don't answer, since nobody else can see them. If I talk to them, other people will probably just assume I'm talking to myself, and I prefer not to have people think I'm crazy. See, it didn't take too long before I figured out that the people with the blue aura are already dead. They don't always know it, but that blue aura always gives them away. You probably think being able to see ghosts would be more interesting than it actually is. Like, maybe I could use that skill to solve murders or something. Well, you try telling people that you can see ghosts. See how far you get. Nobody believes you. And of all the ghosts I've met over the past 10 years or so, none of them have been murder victims, as far as I can tell. Most of them are people who probably aren't ready to move on yet. They follow some of their loved ones around, or they wander, barely interacting with the living. I don't see a lot of ghosts either. Sometimes I might even go a full year or so without noticing a blue aura. Then, one day I'll be at school and see somebody's dead family member checking in on them. Honestly, I think the most excitement I ever got from my little ability was in 9th grade, when Cheryl Bush's mother passed away, and I spotted her shadowing her daughter around. She seemed to be able to do little things to try and help her out, but mostly she just spent time with her, even if Cheryl couldn't see her. Once, she noticed me staring and asked if I could see her. I didn't say anything, but I still nodded. Then I just went about my day. After that, I trade a respectful nod with the late Mrs. Bush every now and then, until eventually she stopped appearing. I assume that once she was content that her daughter was okay, she didn't feel the need to stick around anymore. As ghost encounter stories go, that's about as mundane as you can get. With that particular experience in mind, you can imagine that I don't quite get how people can be afraid of ghosts. Sure, maybe there are a couple out there who can fuck you up, but I've literally never seen one. That said, some of the things that I see aren't ghosts. I don't know what they are. I've only ever seen one before. One thing that I can't explain. But it's something that I'll never forget. I was in 10th grade. I remember it was just after gym class, and I was heading into the locker room to get changed. As soon as I got in there, though, I froze. There was something waiting for us there. Something just sitting casually on one of the benches as if it belonged there. It looked like a person, with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. But that was where the similarities between it and a human being ended. The surface of its skin was smooth and glassy. I could see my reflection, and the reflection of the other boys around me in what I assumed was its face, along with most of its body. The curve of its limbs and torso distorted everything, but the face was perfectly mirror-like. It sat still, but I could still see enough subtle movements to let me know that it was alive. It was aware. I could see its chest rising and falling as it breathed, and I could hear raspy, metallic breaths. "Jason? You alright?" The voice of one of my friends snapped me out of the trance I was in. I hadn't realized that I'd been standing stock still, staring at an empty corner, and I was starting to get a few weird looks. Yeah, I'm fine. Thought I saw something," I murmured, a little sheepishly before finding somewhere else to change. As I moved, I could have sworn that the face of whatever it was that was sitting in the corner followed me, as if it was tracking my movements. I couldn't have dressed myself fast enough, or gotten out of that goddamn locker room fast enough. Even though that thing had no eyes, I could feel it watching me. My heart was racing as I left the locker room behind, and tore over to my locker to put my gym clothes away and get ready for my next period. I hadn't even made it halfway down the hall when I looked back and noticed that it was following me, standing amongst the throng of moving students, who moved around it without noticing it. The Mirror Man was there. I could see my face reflected in his, and I could feel my pulse start to rise as his head tilted slightly, as if he were waiting for me to do something interesting. I turned away and just kept walking, trying to make a point not to look back, hoping like hell that maybe he'd just lose interest in me. No such luck. By the time I got to my next class, he was already there. He was standing quietly in a corner, still watching me and standing stock still. I couldn't help but steal a glance at him, and as I did, I noticed that he changed, ever so slightly. His gaze was off of me for a moment, and he seemed to be looking at my teacher, who was standing at the front of the class taking attendance. I could see the smooth surface of the Mirror Man's body shifting and changing. My teacher for that class, Mr. Coulson, always wore a neatly pressed black suit, and the Mirror Man's body now reflected it. It almost looked as if he was wearing the suit. And in a few more moments, he was. His smooth face turned towards me again, reflecting me sitting at my desk. And even though he had no eyes, I knew that he was staring at me, waiting for me to make a move. I just remained frozen in my seat, and dead silent. I didn't even notice it when Mr. Coulson called my name. "Jason Dryden?" His voice made me jolt a little bit as I looked over at him. His gaze was stern and a little disapproving. I managed a sheepish smile before quietly uttering, "Here." Coulson stared at me with a quiet frustration before he moved on. I kept my head down and quietly got ready for class, trying to ignore the Mirror Man as he stared at me. It wasn't easy. he was there for my next and last class of the day as well, waiting for me in a corner, just like before. His appearance had changed slightly again as well. One of the kids in the classroom was one of those douchebags who waxed poetic about women and wore a trilby hat everywhere he went. I didn't know his name, but I'd seen him around. That same hat appeared on the Mirror Man's head, and he lifted a hand to inspect it and straighten it, as if he was genuinely perplexed by what was on his head. He looked at me again, as if to confirm that I was watching him. I was trying not to make it obvious, but I don't know if I was succeeding or not. He stared at me, just like before, and I couldn't wait for the bell to ring. As soon as class was over, I made a beeline for my locker, grabbed my bag, and got out of school as fast as I could. Home was just a short walk through the park away, but it still seemed impossibly far away. I tried not to look behind me as I walked, but once I'd gotten off the school grounds and was in the quiet space between the fenced-off backyards of suburban houses and the vacant patch of forest they backed onto, I could hear the footsteps on the pavement behind me. I felt my skin crawl a little bit, before finally deciding that I just had to look over my shoulder. I hoped it would just be some other kid, heading home after another long and shitty day of school. No such luck. The Mirror Man stood behind me. He'd acquired an umbrella now, and held it open, despite the weather only being overcast. Autumn leaves drifted off the trees behind him as he stared at me, and I finally stopped and let myself look at him. For what felt like hours, we just stared at each other. Me, and the impossible being that only I seemed to be able to see. A being with no aura. Something that was, as far as I knew, impossible. "What the hell do you want from me?" I demanded, trying to sound tough. I didn't even know if this thing could speak.
"You see me?"
the voice said. It had a strange echo to it, and seemed completely androgynous. "I see you," I replied. "Now what do you want?"
"It's been so long since someone has seen me. Do you like my outfit?"
Seriously? That's what it was asking? This fucking thing had stalked me for half the day, and it was asking me if I liked its outfit? Still, frustrated as I was, I kept myself from insulting it. "Yeah, it's, cool."
"Cool,"
the voice repeated. I could hear a low chuckle. The figure's shoulders shook as if it were laughing.
"Thank you. It has been so many years since anyone has noticed me. Thank you. You've warmed my heart on this cold autumn day. Perhaps I could offer you something. What is it that you desire?"
Now, I'm not exactly an expert on mythology or anything, but I've been on Tumblr. I know creepy face shit when I hear it. Maybe it expected me to ask for love or something? I don't know what. But as friendly as he seemed, I wasn't about to start trusting something like him.
"Please, there must be something you want. We can make a trade, an exchange between friends. A gift for a gift. Wouldn't that be nice?"
His head tilted to the side slightly, and in the reflection on his face, I could see my own face, offering a warm smile. I took a step backward. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I should go." I turned to leave, But as I did, I saw him waiting on the path ahead of me.
I insist.
He replied.
Please. What is it that you desire most?
An Xbox? I just blurted it out, trying to think of something to make him get out of my way. In hindsight, that may not have been such a great idea. His head tilted to the other side now.
Xbox.
He repeated.
Xbox.
The lips of my reflection on his face moved as he spoke the word. Then, that smile returned. It seemed more real now. Similar to how the hat and coat had seemed more real on him than they had before. His face no longer seemed like a blank reflection. I could see my own face there now.
A trade for a trade,
he repeated. And the voice sounded a lot like my voice.
Thank you. There are some things that can't be borrowed, Jason.
Just like that, he was gone. There was another gust of autumn leaves, and I was alone on the trail, with a slow sinking feeling growing in my stomach. There was a package waiting for me when I got home. A brand new Xbox Series X. Looks like it got delivered to the wrong address. I didn't tell my parents about it and hid the box in the trash. I suppose the Mirror Man delivered on his side of the bargain. But it's been a few days now, and as I look at the smooth, glassy surface of my hands, I really can't bring myself to care about what I've been given. I can fake being myself for now. No matter how much I change, people don't seem to notice what's wrong with me. In fact, I can't help but feel as if they notice me less and less now. In fact, I've noticed that people only seem to speak to me now when they mistake me for someone else, after I borrow their clothes or their hairstyle. Last night, my own mother didn't even acknowledge me until I borrowed her hair, and even then it didn't last. I need something more. Something that I can't borrow. Something to make people see me again. A new face. I don't want to be forgotten. I don't want to have to wait for someone like me to see me, just to be seen again, just to be acknowledged. No, I'll fix this. I think I know just what I need to do. Hey everybody, hope you enjoyed today's first of 2 stories. I want to take a quick second to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. It really helps the channel grow and reach more new people. I was checking recently and saw that around half the people who watch the channel aren't yet subscribed, so I hope you'll take a quick second to hit that button if you haven't yet. Alright, now on to our next story. The Man in the Forest game has popped up on various occult forums starting in roughly 1998. Although some of the more savvy visitors to those particular forums recognize it as something much older. The game is actually based on a ritual documented in some of the more reliable grimoires available to the public, although the earliest mention appears to come from a Dano-Norwegian text from 1643, where the entity invoked is referred to as the Tattooed Man, or Lemuel. Any connection to the biblical King Lemuel is unknown. A word of warning, this is a game based heavily on chance. Going in, there is no guarantee of winning, and the cost of losing is very, very steep. There are very few strategies you can use to enhance your chances of success. If you choose to partake, then make sure that whoever you choose as your other player is someone you truly and deeply despise. What you will invoke in this game, whatever you choose to call it, is not something that should be invoked lightly. If you choose to partake in this, it should only be done out of the truest kind of hatred you can possibly feel, and it should only be done if you cannot stand the thought of your intended other player living one more day. Do not attempt to play this game unless you want someone else well and truly dead. Furthermore, do not attempt to play this game trying to drag in some high-profile individual or political figure. It will not work. Your grudge against the other player must be personal and complete. Now, for the game itself. To start the game, you will need to find a place that is isolated and very heavily forested. It's best that you not accidentally wander into someone else's yard while attempting this, for practical purposes, if nothing else. Attempt the game in an area where the forest is not dense enough, or with too many people around, and it's likely that it won't even work, and you'll have just wasted an evening. You will also need a knife, and either a detailed drawing or photograph of whoever it is you wish to bring in as your second player. Any knife will do, so long as it can cut, and if you're not using a photograph, the drawing must be done well. The ritual is less likely to work in your favor if you don't use a photograph, but it can still be completed. You must enter the woods alone, either at or close to midnight. You will not be able to play the game if anyone else is with you. Even if they were to wait in the car, their presence might ruin the game. Come alone and come unarmed. Bring with you no protection charms. Make no circles of salt and use no protection magic, if you happen to know any. You also cannot carry any weapons on you aside from your ritual knife. You must come unarmed and with your defenses lowered. Walk deep into the woods. Some modern versions of the ritual suggest that you should walk for at least an hour. Others tell you of signs to watch for along the way. Neither of these are entirely accurate, although it may not hurt to look for signs or to go deeper. But you must be at least deep enough into the woods to no longer see where you came from. Your starting point must no longer be visible to you. Then, you must find a tree. A birch tree would probably work best. Although, if one is not available, the man in the forest is not picky. Any tree will do, realistically. Take your knife and draw it across your palm, drawing blood. Approach your tree, and mark its bark with the blood from your palm. Smear it generously along the bark, and when that is done, kneel and wait. It may take some time. Remain silent. Be patient and still. If after half an hour you hear nothing, get up to leave the woods immediately, and pray to whatever god you worship that you will be allowed to do so. If eventually you hear movement in the trees around you, know that the man in the forest was drawn to the scent of fresh blood. When you hear the sounds of his coming, you must call out, "I would like to make an offering." Should the man in the forest decide to humor you and hear your offer, the sounds will stop. Should he ignore you and keep moving, then by all means try to run. If you are very lucky, you may even escape. For the time being. But he will catch up to you sooner or later, no matter what precautions you take. Assuming that the man in the forest fell silent, you must rise and take the photo of your other player. As stated before, this should be someone you despise. Someone you hate with every inch of your being. Someone you want dead more than anyone else in the world, and with whom you cannot share this world. Take the picture and stab it with all of your rage, letting the bloody knife pin it to the tree. The forest should be silent still. If it is not, remember what I said about running? If it is silent, then the man in the forest has accepted your offering. The other player has been brought into the game, whether they know it or not. thank the man in the forest for his time, and leave abruptly. Should you make it out of the forest alive, then the game has begun. From here, both you and the other player will have 24 hours to prepare. If they were not aware that they were brought into the game, then they are at a disadvantage. Although if they are familiar with the game, their visions of the man in the forest might make them realize what's going on. Whatever happens, whoever you've brought into the game, don't concern yourself with what they are doing. The man in the forest may toy with them, but that does not mean that you are safe. Ultimately, this is a game of chance, a complicated cosmic coin flip. There is a chance that the man in the forest will come for you, and a chance that he will come for the other player, and neither of you know which he will target. Regardless of how much or how little your other player knows about the occult, you will need to take steps to protect yourself in case the man in the forest decides to come for you. Most basic protection methods will not work. You cannot hide from the man in the forest. Circles of salt will not save you, and most protection charms cannot stop him. You will need to resort to more drastic measures. The best possible method you can use to protect yourself is to utilize scar magic. If you're unfamiliar with it, scar magic is a term often used for powerful runes carved directly into one's flesh. There are many powerful runes of protection out there. Choose the one you trust the most. Take a knife and carve it into your chest. This is the best way to keep yourself safe from the man in the forest. However, should you be averse to taking a knife to your own skin, or simply want to take as many precautions as possible, this is not the only way to seek protection. You may also create a safe room, which you can remain inside of overnight, in the hopes of deterring the man in the forest. In any room, carve protection runes into every possible entrance. The runes must be carved into the material, otherwise they will be weakened. Be thorough. A rune must be carved on every door, even closets, and on every window. It should also be carved into air vent covers, or even ceiling tiles. It is crucial that you miss nothing, as if you do, the man in the forest may find a way in, should he choose to go after you. He will be diligent in his pursuit of you. Be even more diligent in your efforts to protect yourself. Make sure that you have everything you need to remain comfortable during your time in your safe room, and do not leave for any reason. Do not let anyone else into your safe room either, as the man in the forest may use them against you. Should you hear a knock on your door, no matter what voice you hear, you must not answer or respond in any way. Remain silent. Be patient. Wait it out. Near midnight, the man in the forest will come for either you or the other player. If whoever he comes for is sufficiently protected, he may go after the other. But this is not a guarantee. The man in the forest is known to be fickle and unpredictable. If whoever he comes for is not protected, the death they meet will be gruesome and bloody. He will dismantle them with claws of bone and gnashing teeth, ripping flesh from bone in the most sadistic ways imaginable, yet denying his unfortunate victim the pleasure of death. His wrath is violent and agonizing, and the death he will cause is without question one of the most painful ways a person can be killed. Few people on Earth deserve such a horrific end. Maybe the person you chose was one of them. Maybe they weren't. When the next morning comes, emerge from your safe room if you must, but do not make plans to be out for long. Use whatever channels you can to determine if the other player is still alive. If they are, then that means both of you were sufficiently protected. pray that this outcome does not occur. For if it does, the man in the forest will watch you both. So long as you are outside of your safe room, you are vulnerable to him, and he is not known for his patience. Some people think they can run or hide, but he cannot be escaped or hidden from. He will always come back, and there are only two more ways you can win the game. The first is to hope that the other player slips up first. The second is to pray for a natural death, at the hands of anything but the man in the forest. Both can take some time. However, should you find out that the other player is dead, then congratulations. You've won the game. You've beaten the odds. And someone else, someone you truly believed you hated, is dead because of you. Hope it was worth it. One final word of warning. Should you manage to win the Man in the Forest game, you must never attempt to play it a second time. The Man in the Forest will not accept any offerings you make, and will slaughter you on the spot. Furthermore, if you are ever brought in as the other player in the game, the Man in the Forest will always come for you first. It's advisable to not take your safe room apart, ever. It might even be best to start sleeping in it. You never know who hates you enough to bring you in, after all.
Become a channel member today for early access, bonus videos, and special emojis only available to members. Check out the description below or click the join button for more info. If you'd like another way to help support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon page at patreon.com/JordanGrupeHorror. As a patron, you'll get access to bonus videos and content. You'll be credited at the end of every video going forward. And if you decide to stay for 3 months, I'll name a character after you, which will be featured in a Hollow's End story. Links to join the Patreon are in the description. Thanks everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment to help the channel continue to grow. And see you again next time at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you have a great night.